Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Really excited to be joined by Cam, and we're going to be breaking down the 2025 US Open for the men and the women. Cam, how you doing?
Good. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm all good. We're talking about sleep schedules and how you're trying to get back to normality. And with me, with two kids, it's just like, yeah, it is what it is, man. Just sleep when I can.
Yep.
Sleep when I can.
Tennis
Sleep
is
when I
my
can.
kid, and that's just takes up all my time.
Yeah,
Can
it's
imagine.
a very needy kid.
Yeah,
Tennis
yeah,
all year round. Man, schedule's packed.
yep, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, US Open just finished last slam of the year, and a couple of winners, of course, with Alcaraz confirming that him and Sinner will split the slams yet again, like they did in 2024. So that's now 8 slams won by one of Sincaraz, as I like to call them, and Sabalenka. Third time lucky. I think it would have been a bit crazy if she hadn't won a
Yep.
slam, given her year and the results she's had, and making 2 slam finals at the Australian Open and Roland Garros, where she was, I don't think arguably, I think she was the favourite going into those matches, and she would have been disappointed not to come out on top. And then now this final against Amanda Anisimova, someone who she had a losing head-to-head with, who was playing lights out tennis to get the win, was a big, in my opinion, I think it's a big moment in the year for her, and probably something that she needed to gain some relief, I think, from what's been a
Yeah.
pretty intense year, especially slam wise. And for Carlos, he managed to get revenge over Jannik from that Wimbledon final loss. And now head to head is starting to swing quite considerably his way. 10-5 overall, 7-1 since the start of 2024. A lot of murmurings around Jannik talking about having to change his game and potentially lose some matches and by playing different style, and which is quite interesting. And Anisimova saying, she's happy to be in finals, but wants to go one step further. And she had a great tournament as well. Should we start off with the men, Cam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, well, what do you think of the final? Of course, you would have watched it end to end. What do you think of the level and from Carlos and from Jannik, and I guess the spectacle as a whole?
Yeah. No, I mean, like every match that these guys play is the biggest match of the season. I mean, they've played like 5 times in 4 months. And I mean, even though Cincinnati was a letdown, the build-up was still all the same. As soon as these guys meet, it's always going to be crazy. Yeah, I mean, Alcaraz was ridiculous. Crushing forehands. His serve was crazy. It just was peak Alcaraz, I think. And he dropped the second set, but he only lost. I think that was the only breaker serve he had for the entire day, or against his serve. And it was just one sloppy game. And Sinner didn't play bad. It wasn't like he played too bad, but he didn't play like he did against Bublik or Musetti. I know that Alcaraz is not going to let him play like that, but yeah, I don't remember Alcaraz playing that good against anybody. Like, I mean, maybe against someone who's 100, but not the guy that he just lost to in Wimbledon. Like, it was crazy. Like, and I think a lot of people have said over the past is like, the only difference between Alcaraz and Sinner is that Alcaraz is not as consistently high level, and Sinner's got that high level consistency, which we saw throughout most of the tournament. They had moments here and there, but Alcaraz this tournament, for the first time, dropping a set, and like I said, just one break to lose that second set, he was flawless.
Yeah, he was really good, and it was a real stark contrast to 2022 when he won the US Open, his first title, where he just played epic long matches and had to really grind through that tournament. In the end, as well, having to play 4 sets against Ruud, and that was still a pretty long 4 sets against Casper. And this tournament, as you said, he barely got broken. I think it was 3 times overall, once against Darderi, once against once against Yannick, even.
Yep.
And I forgot the other time. I don't think
Novak.
it was against Novak. Was it Novak? Did Novak get a break?
Second set he was down a break.
Okay, yeah, he was, wasn't he? Yeah, so once against Novak. So that's 3 overall. And I think the record is twice, and that was Pete Sampras did it at Wimbledon. So the fact that he was that close to Pete Sampras, who is regarded as one of the best servers of all time, it's phenomenal. He had an incredible serving fortnight, I think it's fair to say, and that probably showed in the final. I think, as you said, Jannik didn't play badly, but he didn't play as well as probably we were expecting him to play, because he's regularly at around 80% of his level is like the minimum you'd think, and didn't really
Yeah.
feel like he was at that. Like 48% of first serves in is like really low for him. He is Mr. Consistent. Like his whole game is based around high percentage plays, keeping it really simple, but essentially excelling in those very simple, like doing the basics well, essentially, and doing it better than anyone else. And that's what he did at Wimbledon. He served a lot better than Carlos, was more accurate spot serving wise. And then actually, to be fair, at Wimbledon as well, he was utilized the drop shot quite well and came to the net, which is a good addition. And he tried to do that in this one, but it's hard when you're coming behind only 48% of your first serve, so then start coming forward and come to the net a lot. And you kind of limit the options that you have, because Carlos is such a good returner, as is Jannik, but Carlos was making more first serves. He was more accurate, and the serve kind of ended up being quite a big factor in the end. And I think Carlos's forehand was just on fire throughout the whole match. The first set, I don't think I've seen, like you were saying, I don't think I've seen him play at that level consistently for a whole match. I feel like sometimes you'll see a set where he plays incredible, like lights out tennis, 9.5 out of 10, as like, tennis insights would say, and then it dropped to 7 the next set because his level just dips and it's hard for him to sustain it for so long. But this final, I felt like he was very consistently clinical, I think, throughout the whole of it, apart from that one blip, as you mentioned, in that second set, which was just, he took his eye off the ball for a second, but then he just like, after that set was done, he was like, okay, back into destruction mode. I think Jannik was just probably thinking, what do I do? Which is why it makes sense what he said after about having to change things, because he probably just felt like the match wasn't his racket at all. And that's not a nice way to feel, considering that, he probably felt after the Wimbledon final that, okay, I'm starting to come back here in the head-to-head, and like this is a really good positive. And then they said Carlos spent 15 days just studying that final and Jannik after, which is just ridiculous. I mean, talk about dedication. And I was impressed with the fact that he had the wherewithal, not just him but his team as well, and the tennis IQ to think, okay, I've pretty much been able to get through everyone else on tour, but Jannik's going to most likely be the person that I play in the final if I make it that far, so let me concentrate. And it was clearly the confidence he had as well. I think someone in his team actually said after that US Open came to them before they closed the roof and said, oh, just to let you know, like the roof's going to be closed. And the team went to Carlos and said to him, oh, like, just to let you know, like the roof's going to be closed. Like, are you okay with that? Or just kind of checking with him that, he didn't have any reservations about it. And he said, doesn't matter, I'm going to win anyway. And apparently that's very unlike him. Like he's normally quite, because his general persona is quite humble and, actually, who knows what will happen. And it's very Rafa-esque, I think, in that sense, his attitude. But it's interesting that he said, and it's interesting they had that, and you would have seen it on Instagram and other social media platforms, that when they were waiting because of the Trump delay, Carlos was super like dialed in, like, doing his stretches and everything. And normally you expect maybe he's laughing, joking around a little bit, whereas Carlos had his, the foam roller. He was playing baseball with it and playing tag with the coaches and stuff. And it's like, normally you expect the other way around, but Carlos was just super dialed in, and he almost like channeled his inner Jannik to a degree, like Terminator mode. But that was like crazy to watch. Do you think the head-to-head, like the rivalry, is in danger of becoming quite one-sided?
Before the final, I would have said no, because I mean the head-to-head, it felt like it was a little misleading, because there's so many matches where where Sinner could have won. There's I think like 2 or 3 that had match points. He was up 2 sets to 1 in the French last year, and it felt like, well, I thought after Wimbledon, I thought, oh, okay, now maybe he'll get a couple, and then Cincinnati happened. But I mean, I don't know if I don't think Alcaraz counted that. That's probably why he was so aggressive in the final, to make sure that no, that was, it was going to be my win anyway. I just couldn't finish it. But yeah, now it's weird though, because if Alcaraz plays like that against Sinner every time, then I don't know how Sinner's going to get a couple back, unless, again, I guess we're going to see if Alcaraz does play that level for the entire. I mean, he doesn't really need to play like that for the rest of the season, but every time he plays Sinner from now on, is that what he's going to bring? because then, like Sinner has to go back to the drawing board, figure out what's going on. When it's almost like Wimbledon, he figured it out, and then Alcaraz changed it again. And went, oh, well, now I'm going to go up another level. And you're like, okay, just when he thought he caught him, and that's it. And yeah, so I mean, it's 10-5 is already, and like you said, 7-1 in the last 2 years. It's pretty crazy. And now it's like, now it's going to get even harder. So it could blow out to be a big difference. And I mean, like, if you're talking about great rivalries, I mean, Federer and Nadal kind of blew out for a little bit, and then it didn't really, we never got close again. But then there's other rivalries that does, blows out to, 18-3, and then it might just like close to 15-18 or whatever, someone goes on a run. So yeah, I think right now though, it's that rivalry is Alcaraz's easy. Like every time they play from now on, I mean, maybe on a fast hard court. Indoor hard courts would be fun to see them play there. Hopefully they play
that's true,
the ATP finals. But yeah, I think it's going to be tough for Sinner if that's the Alcaraz he gets to play every time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think indoor hard courts would be an interesting one, actually, as you said, because I feel like that's where Carlos hasn't won unless I'm mistaken, he hasn't won a big title anyway.
He won Rotterdam, but I think they might have slowed it down.
Yeah. Also, it's a 500, so
and it's 500. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not Paris. It's not ATP finals. No offense, Rotterdam. Yeah. Please accept our media accreditation for next year. But but yeah, no. In all seriousness, I think it's just crazy because you mentioned earlier that with Carlos, he's got all the variety, and Jannik is more this. There's a reason why he's been compared to Novak and maybe the older Novak, who was very systematic in breaking people down. Yeah. And he would play very high percentage, but essentially a really elite level of tennis. And now it's got to a point where Jannik's thinking, well, what I'm doing at the moment is not enough. So what do I need to change to beat Alcaraz? But you almost think if he tries to become too much like Alcaraz from a variety aspect, then he actually loses a lot of his identity in how he plays. Because the question is, can he... Well, one, I guess, is he inherently just naturally as gifted, for example, with his hands, with the drop shots, with those types of things? I'm not quite sure. I'd say no. But where he has been able to topple Alcaraz has been in like shot tolerance and in ball striking quality, just generally from both wings. And now it's got to a point where he doesn't feel like he has that edge. So I guess where does he make the gains? And it's difficult to actually know where he does make them if Carlos plays like this, because you just feel like Carlos has so many options. Yeah. Like, how does he combat it? So I know you used to coach a lot. So what do you think? Like, do you have an idea of how you adjust?
Well, yeah, again, that's sort of like how the last, I guess, 18 months has gone. It's kind of been like, well, I get asked on stream all the time, who's better? And it's like, oh, well, Alcaraz has got a higher ceiling because of all the he can do everything. Like, there's nothing that he can't do, and nothing that he can't do to a high level. From serve and volleying to drop shots to standing back and rallying. And then just playing, just your basic shots too, right? He's just got every shot. It doesn't seem like he has a weakness, except that he gets a little distracted and maybe gets a little too entertaining and tries to do a little too much and like loses focus. But we didn't see that this tournament. And then, Sinner, but he's, there's a couple of things that Sinner needs. His net games are, it's good, it's solid, but. And, his serve obviously let him down the final this year. But, it just always felt like Alcaraz had a higher ceiling. So for Sinner, I mean, he doesn't do much wrong, Sinner. It's not like someone like a Medvedev who you can tell, like, okay, well, this is what he's good at and this is what he's not good at. And he's probably never going to get really good at this thing. The net, mainly coming to the net and doing, drop shots and stuff. So he's going to have to stay back and play that really well and hope that the other guy... Whereas Sinner doesn't have... like an obvious weakness. It's just that he's not got every shot like Alcaraz, but nobody has that. So if he, hearing him say like, "Oh, I need to go back and change my game," it's like I thought he was maybe talking about when he plays Alcaraz, but he didn't say. I don't know if he said that exactly.
No, he didn't, because he actually said that I might have to lose some matches against other players, which means that he's thinking about essentially like wholesaling his, not like completely, I imagine, but making some big changes tactically and in his game to, I guess, gear towards Alcaraz. But he would have to practice it before, because I think the issue he was saying is that he realized in the final that he had to try and adjust it a little bit to combat what Alcaraz was doing, but because he didn't play that way at all throughout the rest of the tournament, he was really struggling to actually execute it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I mean, we did get a preview of the final of how somebody could push Sinner, and we saw that with Shapovalov, and we were watching that match, and I mean, Shapovalov's always been unpredictable, doing, he can do a lot of different things, but it's always about his consistency, not being able to consistently play at that level. But we saw in the first and the third set against Sinner that, and we've seen it with Rune in the past against Sinner, getting sets off him and struggling, troubling him. And then Alcaraz is just the best version of all those guys. So, yeah, I mean, you make the final of, every slam and you only lose to the one guy. One with you had a championship point. You could have, you're up 2-0, and the other one, he just played the best match against you ever. So I don't know. I don't think he has that. If it happens, I don't know. I mean, I don't think he needs to do too much. Like, he doesn't need to change things. I don't like if he's only losing Alcaraz. It depends if Alcaraz keeps this level as well. If Alcaraz keeps this level, then he's definitely going to change things. Otherwise, he's not going to win against Alcaraz. But
Jannik's probably thinking like next year I could play 4 Grand Slam finals against him and then lose all 4 of them if it keeps on going like this, right? Because they played 3 out of the 4 this year.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, next year, Carlos, you would imagine, is going to do better at Australia. That's the one slam that he struggled. I don't think he's made it past the quarterfinals, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
But you'd imagine, given that if you were to play Novak again in Australia like this, he'd probably win, given what we saw at the US Open. So really, who can stop him? Maybe Zverev. I mean, historically, maybe, potentially, but it's looking more and more unlikely. So they could potentially play a final in Australia, and then Jannik's like, well, okay, what do I do here? Because the US Open and Australia play quite similar now as well. I think speed-wise. So I guess Jannik's probably thinking exactly what Carlos was thinking after the Wimbledon final, which is, do I need to put in a block, a training block, to try and combat how I play Alcaraz? But as you said, it's really difficult because like no one really, I guess why it was easier for Alcaraz to adjust is because there are a lot of players that play a similar style to Jannik, but just not to the same degree, like to the same level. Whereas with Carlos, no one really plays like him. No. Everyone has something that he does, but his all-round game, like the variety, is very difficult. Like no one really has that well-roundedness and completeness to that degree anyway on tour. So it's very difficult for Jannik to think, okay, well, who can I watch? He needs to go back and, I guess, watch tape of Alcaraz, but then, like, I don't know, like, how does he adjust to it? Because I feel like with Jannik, it was like quite clear Carlos was not overusing the drop shot against him, was going really hard into the forehand, and he was having a lot of success in there. He went a lot bigger on the forehand, cross court, and he gained success there. Obviously, served a lot bigger. And then for the back of the court, he's a lot more patient, which showed. But it's difficult, like with Jannik. Like as you said, what does he do? Oh, Carlos used the backhand slice a lot more, which he didn't use at Wimbledon. Probably should have. Yep. And I said it. I remember saying watching that final and thinking, well, why is he not using it? Because it's grass as well, and Jannik likes it. But it's interesting because I think actually I've been doing some work with Tennis Insights, and there's the leaderboard for the 52-week averages around like core shots, so like shots that are just hit essentially with topspin or flat. And Jannik actually leads that. So he essentially hits with the least amount of variety than anyone on tour. I think it's at 88%, which is pretty crazy to think about. And let me just double check that it's definitely on tour, not top 10, because it could be a top 10 and then I look very silly. But I think even if it is just a top 10, I mean, that's pretty telling, right? Because so Yeah, 52-week leaderboard for it is for the whole tour. So he's at 88.3%. Offner's just below at 87.4. Fritz is on there as well, which is not surprising at 8, and Medvedev at 10, because neither player really slices or uses angles a lot. But essentially, Jannik is, and it's not just the fact that he doesn't slice and use drop shots and variety as well, but it's the fact that he doesn't use short angles. Like, he's very much like hits through the baseline with a lot of pace. And I think Carlos said after the final that not that Sinner is predictable, because Sinner said, "Oh no, I was too predictable." But I guess Carlos was alluding to that. But he said, "Oh, he's not really predictable, but because I've played him now so many times and I've been watching him so much, I essentially could anticipate and picked up the patterns that Jannik likes."
Yeah.
And that, I guess, then does lead on to what Jannik was saying, that he was predictable and then he needs to try and add at least some sort of surprise element to his game, whether that means adding different shots, etc., or actually maybe it just means hitting, for example, with his forehand with more shape and spin, and then hitting it flatter and hitting shorter angles, and like maybe utilizing that rather than thinking like, "Oh, I need to hit a forehand slice," which is probably not, we're not going to probably see from him, right? I start playing like Kyrgios. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's an interesting one to see how that goes, but. Yeah, hopefully it's not super one-sided next year, because I feel like that could only be really bad for tennis.
I'm
like,
hoping
Carlos
we get
wins all 4 slams. Like, that'd be crazy.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that would be good for tennis if he got a calendar slam. But I think, I really want to see them play ATP finals, and if they can play the Davis Cup, I think if they played at both of those, like kind of like what Djokovic Sinner did back a couple of years ago when they had those 3 matches in 2 weeks or whatever it was. If we can get those 2 matches, that'll give us the biggest indicator, because that's the only, we know. Well, Sinner on grass, I mean, I guess he owns the head-to-head, but you wonder if that's going to happen again. French Open, Clay's Alcaraz. Hard court now feels like Alcaraz has got the head-to-head record in hard court, even though Sinner's the hard court guy.
It's 4-2 or something, isn't it?
Yeah, something. Yeah, it's pretty one-sided. And then, so then to see them, especially because it's in Italy, so it's like, okay, if Alcaraz can go to a hostile environment and get him there as well on his worst surface, that would be really interesting, because then you would think, okay, well, now Sinner really needs to figure out, but or it might be 2, he gets 2 back, and then we kind of go into next year going, okay, well, Sinner won the last 2, and then there's still Alcaraz is still a problem, but I don't know, it would be interesting if we do get them playing at least once out of those tournaments. That'd be awesome, just to kind of, I mean, what's probably going to happen now is we're not going to see them play until the French Open final, but if we can get them to play at least one indoor match where it like feels like, oh, this is Sinner's thing, it's in his country, it's on his kind of surface, that would be interesting to see how Alcaraz's game stacks up then. And that, if he wins that, then you go, well, how does Sinner beat him? Then maybe he doesn't beat him, unless Alcaraz having a bad day.
Yeah, and I guess, as you said, you made a good point about the grass head-to-head. I guess then you think, okay, well, maybe he can do it on grass, because like, I guess with the fact that grass is a little bit quicker, it's a bit slicker, keeps lower. But then you just think, surely Alcaraz would have realized after that, with the slice, he utilized it at the US Open, he's going to utilize it at Wimbledon. Yeah. That's going to neutralize a lot of Jannik's pace in the backhand corner anyway.
I think I don't think many people are mentioning that when he was playing him at Wimbledon, Alcaraz was trying to win 3 in a row, and that whole pressure of that, having just played Sinner, I think he was probably the favorite going into that final too. We think, oh, well, Sinner got him. It's like, yeah, but Alcaraz had a lot to try, and he was trying to achieve, try and do the Channel Slam back to back, I would think he would have been the youngest player to do that. Like, it was a lot on the line for Alcaraz, whereas going into the final of the US Open, it was more on Sinner to go, okay, well, can you do it again? Win 3 in a year, right? And win, and be like, I know a lot of people were saying like, oh, well, if he wins the US Open, he's only been 1 point away from a calendar slam and blah, blah. And you go, yeah, true. Again, maybe that was, it was funny watching Sinner, like the first game or first 2 or 3 games, Alcaraz came out and just went like, the first point was just like, all right, this is what I'm doing. And Sinner just didn't, I guess he wasn't, it looked like he wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure next time they play, Sinner's not going to go, I'm going to wait to the third game till we play. It's like, no, we got to play first point. And he's going to play his best centers in the first point like Alcaraz didn't, against him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, agreed. It's also crazy that whenever we watch these types of matches, the first point tends to always be a really, really impressive rally, which I don't know why, but just historically, whenever I used to watch matches, I didn't feel like that was the case. But whenever I watched Djokovic versus Alcaraz or Djokovic versus Sinner or Sinner versus Alcaraz, any combination of those three, I feel like the first point is always like a taster of this is what's to come. And it's always something that really gets you salivating straight away, which is just crazy. I think these guys are just so locked in. It's just, I guess they're so good returning wise as well that they straight away they're into the point, and then it's like you've got to really work for it. You don't have a huge amount of free points consistently anyway.
No one's serving an ace on the first point. No one's serving an ace. It's a 20-shot rally.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think about Novak then? I mentioned Novak and obviously semi-finals throughout the whole year at slams, but not being able to get past the hurdle of Jannik or Carlos now, which a lot of people might have thought, oh, okay, well, he beat him at the Australian Open, so maybe at the US Open he can do it. Wasn't to be. Straight set losses to Jannik and Carlos at all the last three slams. Said afterwards, which is pretty similar to what he said, to be fair, at the Wimbledon press conference when I was there, that when he gets to this stage of the tournament, essentially to paraphrase, he's gassing out because like physically he's feeling it and he doesn't feel like he can actually keep up with them in a best of 5 format. And then he said something really interesting, which is, I think maybe in a best of 3 format, which is a bit strange because he's not really playing many best of 3 tournaments, period. So I don't know why that would be like a goal for him to try and beat them in the best of 3. But maybe it was just him taking some sort of consolation. It was the aftermath of what just happened. He was trying to find some positives because I remember at Wimbledon, he was just really deflated, like essentially saying, no one looks after my body more than me on tour. I challenge you to find anyone else who spends the amount of time looking after themselves, on tour because, I've spent so much time throughout my whole career looking after myself. But he said it's really frustrating that he basically feels like the level is there, but physically his body is just not holding up and doing exactly, I guess, what he would want it to do. Especially at that stage of a slam, and you almost wonder, maybe he's almost alluded to the fact. There's an interesting point because he's going up the rankings, but you almost wonder maybe if he were low down the rankings and he got like an Alcaraz or Sinner early on, could he catch them cold potentially, and that might be easier because he'd be fresh as well. So you always feel like if he gets to semi-final and final, no offense to any of the other guys, I don't feel like he maybe has as much of an issue against. Well, he definitely won't have as much of an issue. Probably beats them. But in the latter stages, like whoever it is, outside of Sinner and Alcaraz, we saw against Fritz, for example. And
Zverev, the French.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
exactly, yeah. And these guys are in their quote-unquote primes, right? So I think for Sinner and Alcaraz, you almost feel like it might not be a bad thing because he's not playing many other tournaments anyway. So probably wouldn't be a bad thing if he just loses some points and drops outside the, I guess, top 20, and he would just the problem is he could obviously draw someone who's also a good player in the first couple of rounds, but then maybe that's what he needs to take the risk to potentially play them early doors and he have a better chance. I don't know, like it's just a really weird thing for me to say, but I just wonder whether that would actually be better for him at this stage of his career, because it just seems like, as we always say, father time's undefeated, and it just feels like physically as soon as he gets to the semi-final stage, these guys then, we used to say it all the time about Novak that he would take your legs first. First he takes your legs, and now essentially Carlos and Jannik are doing that to him because he's an old man, right? In tennis terms. But yeah, what's your view on Novak and I guess his level this year and going forward, and the hunt, I guess, for 25?
Yeah, it's weird because it's like he loses to one of these guys, and then you hear all the things of, he should retire. You're like, why? He just made 4 slam semis. Anybody outside of Alcaraz and Sinner who did that would have been like, that's my best year ever. Like, you give that to Zverev, you give that to Fritz. Anyone down the list, you go, that's a great year. And look, not to make excuses, but semi-finals Australian Open, he had to retire. He wasn't 100%. French Open semi was probably his best. He looked the best, and he pushed in a couple of sets. He pushed him. I think it was, I don't know if he had a set point, if it was close to set point in one of those second or third set against Sinner on the clay. Wimbledon, his legs were gone. And then the French Open, so the US Open, he comes up against like prime Alcaraz, right? And it was funny because in the second set when he got that break, it felt like, I think he had he screamed to the crowd and everyone's going crazy. And it felt like, oh, here we go. Okay, he's going to get the second and we're going to figure it out. And then Alcaraz breaks back and gets it done in straight. So he's still ahead of Zverev and Fritz, though. So it's like, well, you got Sinner, Alcaraz, Alcaraz, Sinner, however you want to put them in whatever order, Djokovic, and then you've got everybody else. So it's like, well, if he was losing to guys that were outside the top 10, you'd go, that's a shame. But he's losing to these two guys. And we saw at Wimbledon how close Sinner was to going out. If Sinner's going to start playing different, and maybe he gets put in the same half, then, being number 4 in the world, he doesn't have to play to the semis. Maybe then, if Sinner decides to get a little creative and, falls, maybe he does get to the final. And then, in Australian Open, I think Wimbledon and Australian Open, I think he said that are his best chances. But if Sinner decides to get a little fancy in the first week and comes up against somebody he should have been a little bit more conventional with and goes out, and Djokovic goes to the final, and Alcaraz hasn't done well in Australia yet, or as well as the other slams yet, and maybe there is a chance he could sneak one like that. But again, he's still making it to those guys. So it's like, it's so weird to be for him to, like, he's running out of legs by the time he gets to them. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he's not that far away, but he is 38. So it's like, it was 5 years younger. It'd be awesome, right? It'd be awesome to see how that would work, but he's still getting there. So it's so weird to, I was a little surprised that he didn't play, besides the mixed doubles, didn't play anything between, he played 3 slams in a row and didn't play any warm-ups. And I know he said, I'm only focusing on slams. But there was a lot of little weird things that were happening to him in the first week. He was having medical timeouts for a shoulder thing and a neck problem and a back thing. And it's that's probably just because he doesn't play it. And, just his body's what the hell, we haven't played tennis for whatever, 6 weeks, 4 weeks. So maybe had he played Cincy or had he played, something else, but before that, maybe it would have just warmed his body into then the slams. I know I still think he's got a massive gas tank. I don't think that's a big issue. He's running out of gas, But then again, he is running out of gas sometimes during matches, unexpectedly. But I don't know. It's a weird one. He's got this weird balance where he's I'm going to play only the things that I want to win. But how many people walk into a slam and just win it without any warm-up tournaments? I mean, Sinner and Alcaraz played Cincinnati. They had a warm-up. Djokovic just, and now he's not going to play for the rest of the year. So he's going to go to the Australian Open, possibly with no warm-up as well. So I think he's playing one tournament besides an exhibition. He's playing one tournament for the rest of the year. Or he's locked into one tournament. So it's weird. It's I get why he's doing it, but I don't know if you look at Federer, for example, the way he went about the end of his career and trying to prioritize different slams and different moments of the season and whatever. He cut out the clay because he wanted to focus on Wimbledon because he knew that was his best chance. Would he be better off doing that? Not playing the tournaments that he goes, oh, well, Sinner and Alcaraz are too good. I'm not going to be a chance on this surface against them, but going all in on 4-1 more Wimbledon or 4-1 more Australian Open. Maybe that, I don't know. It's interesting to see how he's going about it. And it's weird that he's he was playing everything 2 years ago and now he doesn't play anything. And you see him once every 3 months. It's weird, but he's not that far away. I don't think he's that far away from these guys, but yeah, maybe if he does drop down and he plays him in a 4th round, maybe he gets a better shot. I mean, maybe, but then again, like you said, run the risk of playing someone else in the 2nd round and who might just be as dangerous and might catch you, off guard. So, yeah, it's a weird situation to see.
Yeah, it is weird. And you make a good point about the schedule that with Federer, he used to, as you said, skip the clay, and then right at the end of his career, he then made a return. I remember, but
Came back,
generally, but he missed a lot of consecutive years because he just thought Rafa's going to win every year, and Rafa did win pretty much every year.
Yeah.
And so he was right to probably skip it and prioritize. But I guess with Novak, because he's always been such an all-court player, and people probably don't realize this if you haven't, depending on your age, I guess. But if you're quite young, you would look at Novak and the Roland Garros titles he's won and think, oh, okay, yeah, like he was good, but he wasn't, or he isn't really good on clay. But actually, go and watch last year's Olympic final against Alcaraz. And then also, if you take Nadal out of the equation, who's the greatest clay courter ever, Novak would have won a lot of Roland Garroses. And in my opinion, I think he's actually the second best clay courter of all time, which is a pretty big call because a lot of people say Bjorn Borg. But he is damn good on clay. Now, at this stage of his career, though, at this age, given how physical clay is it really the right move? I mean, I guess what would have been interesting and I wanted to see was him actually against Alcaraz this year on clay after what happened in the Olympics last year. We haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And that to me would have been interesting to see, like whether, because somehow he obviously figured it out. And you would think that clay would be the one surface that actually he would struggle with the most against Alcaraz, but it hasn't been the case. So maybe he could have made something work there, but obviously he got Jannik, and Jannik just isn't a good matchup for him, period, at the moment.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe he was thinking in his head, well, why would I skip clay when I just beat Alcaraz at the Olympics? Yeah, fine, best of three, sorry. But still high pressure match at Roland Garros. Carlos was the French Open champion. Why should I miss that? And then he's thinking, well, Wimbledon, I've got a chance. I've obviously won there so many times. I'm looking to make more history there. The US Open, historically, he has struggled at quite a bit. And it's been one of those weird slams where, he's won it, I think it's 4 times. But it's been a slam that has like changed hands a lot until recently. And
no one's defended it since Federer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, since Federer, which is like 2006 or something, wasn't it? Something crazy. So
like 2008, I think.
2008. Yeah, 2008. So I think he's probably thinking, well, just give myself the best possible chance and play all of them. But then, as you say, maybe it is worth him saying, well, okay, I don't want to play more than 10 tournaments a year. So why don't I just focus, like you were saying, on playing some warm-up tournaments before that specific slam, giving myself the best possible chance to peak during that slam? Because I think what he's doing is relying on the fact of, I've got the experience to work my way into form during a tournament, which more likely than not is working for him. But is it working enough? Is he really at the top echelon of his game currently when he's facing Jannik and Carlos? I mean, only he'll be able to tell you, but it sounds like he feels like he is in the presses. But I don't know. I don't know, right? It's difficult.
I wouldn't mind if he like instead of doing what Federer did and not play the clay, like after Wimbledon, just don't play the American season and then come back and play, like if he's going to go play 3 sets to try and get wins or trying. I guess when I hear him say trying to get wins over these guys, maybe in best of 3, it's just a psychological thing, right? To get them, if they do play at the slam, go, oh, I lost to this guy, or I'm a better, just to try and at least give them something to think about next time they play, instead of being like, oh, I beat this guy 3 times in a row, 4 times in a row for whatever Sinner has, or Alcaraz being like, oh yeah, I beat this guy before, I don't need to worry too much. So yeah, but I mean, because I know that he one of his kids' birthdays is during the US Open. He talked about not being there for that, and like, don't go to America. Like, finish the play Wimbledon, come back. Don't even have to go to Asia. You come back in come back, play Vienna and Paris, and then try and get some wins over these guys there, and then start fresh in Australia. Like, it's just awkward that it's at the end of the right there at the end of the season, and US Open has been up for grabs, but maybe that's going to change now. Who knows? But I don't know. It's just is his like, what's the slam that he's not going to win? Is it going to be the US Open or the French Open, right? They're probably the two that, like, which one's he realistically not going to have a good chance at? And, worth not playing because it's like, oh, well, that's so-and-so's. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it would be interesting how he does. And he's trying to figure it out as well, right? He's like, oh, I played all the tennis and all the tournaments, and now I'm trying to work out what's worth playing and what's not worth playing. And he's like, I'm only playing Slams and Davis Cup. And he's realizing, maybe I should play some other stuff too. But it's like, what does he bring in and what does he get out? Like, yeah, it's just because even like during Indian Wells Miami, he's not doing that great. As he used to win Miami all the time, and now even there he's not doing his best. So yeah, it's weird. It's going to be interesting. Next year will be interesting. I think next year, again, if he keeps making semis of slams, he won't go anywhere. Why would he leave? There's no point.
Yeah, I guess
he loses to these guys again. Yeah, the same guys. But
my feeling is that he'll only start seriously considering retiring if he, like you said, starts losing to the guys outside of Alcaraz and Sinner at slams, and that's when he'll think, okay, well, hold on, now something's happening here, because that's when he starts thinking, well, I'm now starting to become really far off winning one. I think the thought behind some people saying why doesn't he retire is one, because he's won everything, right? So I guess the question is, where is the motivation for him if he knows that realistically he's going to have to be at least one of Carlos and Jannik, and that's looking more and more unlikely, given the fact that he's now 30, he's getting older, the gap is going to become bigger and bigger because these guys are going to get better and better. He is, unfortunately, because of our time, most likely going to get worse and worse because, like, I mean, are we going to say that next year he's going to play better than this year, like level-wise at 39? I mean, I don't think physically he will. Maybe he tactically can change something. I don't know. Can he serve bigger, go bigger from the baseline? Yeah, I guess he could. But is it going to have an effect? I don't know.
I think that's the key as well. Like, tactically, the difference between him and Federer.
Yeah.
At this age, like, Federer was able to shorten points, serve volley, serve big, whereas Djokovic's game has always been rally, outlast the other guy, physicality, athleticism. And if that doesn't work, then we saw with Rafa last year, right? He just Rafa didn't have that extra step, and you're like, I just can't get to the ball and do his thing. Whereas Federer didn't have that issue. He was down one knee, really, towards the very end, but he still had those. The strategies were just there for him.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think Novak has them now, but it's not as natural as it was to Federer. I think that's probably the crux of the matter. Like, Novak has, like, the forehand has become so much more of a weapon. Like, in terms of winner hitting ability on that side, it's gone through the roof. But like, if we compare that to Federer, like, Federer's forehand was always that, right? Like, it was always a massive weapon. It was always very natural for him to hit through it and be really attacking on it. Novak can go through periods where it's just an absolute weapon and, like, really, really does hurt people. But is that his most natural way of playing? No. And then his net game as well it's like much improved, no doubt. Is he as natural a volleyer as a Carlos or a Federer? We'd say probably not. And then we talk about serve, and he's worked so much on his serve, and it's such an incredible serve now. He wins so many 3 points on it. But again, is it as natural as, say, like Federer's serve? And Federer throughout his whole career was winning 3 points on it. Novak, he's serving incredibly well, I think, on tour, but I don't think it's enough to bridge the gap, I think, between that and everything else that he's struggling with. Like, from the back of the court, shot tolerance, the legs, the physicality of it. And, Alcaraz and Sinner, they don't just have more legs than him. They're now hitting the ball harder than him. They now, especially Alcaraz, has got more variety than him. And I think he's struggling to, in the past, it would have been easy. He would have just thought, well, okay, well, hold on. I've got my legs, so now all I need to focus on is exactly how do I maneuver this? How do I grind them down? But he can't do that anymore. So he has to be, essentially, at times, it almost probably feels like he's having to despite him obviously making the changes, having to play out of his comfort zone a little bit, he's done, out of all the big three, I think he's made the most adjustments, which is a testament to him. And that is probably why, not just the adjustments, but his mentality, that's why he's sitting at the top of tennis, and that's why he is the greatest of all time, because he's won everything now.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, though, when you get to the stage of your career, there's only so much you can do. Like, you just can't turn back the clock, right? Turn back time. And I think you just see at times when he was playing Alcaraz, he just looks exasperated, as if, what am I supposed to do? He'll get to a drop shot and he'll feel physically like, oh my god, I got to this, what a get. And then he'll get blobbed or he'll get passed, and then he's like, okay, great. Like, he feels like he's an old man getting run around a lot of the time, and that's probably not great for him. And that probably then seeps into frustrations post-match as well. So it's a difficult one. I'd like you were saying, I don't think he should even play Indian Wells in Miami. Like, what is the point? From his perspective, it's a hard court Masters event, like 2 of them, but leading into the clay court swing. Like, it's not really relevant. And then maybe he does, like you said, maybe he plays like a Brisbane or something before the Australian Open and like prepares for that. And then, I don't know, for Wimbledon, he actually plays Queens, for example, he plays Harler, and then he plays Wimbledon. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if he plays the ATP Tour Finals, because he's actually, his live ranking is 3 in the race.
I know he said in the press conference, I'm not playing it, but I'm yet to say that he's okay. You just never know. He might get to the end of the year and go, change my mind, I'm going to play now.
Yeah, because
if he wants to get that win over Alcaraz or Sinner, that might be a
I mean, if he's talking about best of 3, then indoors against Alcaraz is not a bad shot, right? He beat him there 2 years ago. And it's interesting because last year he said, I'm not going to play it either. And that was okay. I understood it. But now at this stage, you think, why wouldn't you play it? Well, the Italian crowd love him. He's really well received. It's indoors. It's a shorter tournament. I'm surprised. I mean, he's joint third, I think, with Zverev. They're joint on points in the race to Turin. Most likely, I guess he'll qualify. So,
I mean, if he doesn't qualify, that means everybody behind him did really well. It means that Sinner and Alcaraz didn't win everything going forward.
Exactly. Before we move on to the women's, on the men's, is there anyone else you want to mention? I mean, obviously, it's difficult because, as you said, it is really at the moment Carlos, Jannik, then Novak below them, and then everyone else. But I guess maybe do you want to talk a little bit about anyone that maybe disappointed you a little bit? You're a bit surprised it didn't do as well as you thought, or actually surprised you in a positive way?
In a positive way, Felix, for sure. Like beating Dimonor, Zverev, Rublev, getting a set off Sinner. Like I didn't see that coming. That was awesome. I love that because I've been flying the flag for so long for FAA, and just been like, he's got every shot. He is as talented as these guys, but to see him do well, that was great. And then to see him push Sinner, because I thought, he's gotten here and Sinner's just going to chop him up. The way that he was playing against Musetti and Bublik, I thought, Felix, great run. But then to get the second set and to sort of, have Sinner thinking about stuff, I thought that was really interesting. And hopefully he can maintain that because, he has had a great end of seasons, before where he's won multiple titles in a row. So hopefully it's not, I mean, it would be great to see him make the ATP finals. On the disappointing side, I mean, not really. Not anyone that I was like, oh man. I was a little disappointed that Fritz didn't push Novak more. I know the head-to-head's really one-sided, but I feel like there was such a great chance because it was in America. Djokovic wasn't looking super good. Fritz is playing the best tennis of his career, arguably, the last 12 months. I was a little disappointed that he didn't make Djokovic work a little more for it. But again, I think he's just probably psyched out at this point, as most of those guys are when they play Djokovic still, So a little disappointed that Fritz didn't. I thought he could really beat Djokovic. But I didn't pick him to beat Djokovic. But I thought, there's an opportunity there, but he just couldn't do it. Other than that, not really. I mean, Medvedev losing first round, but that's sort of been a thing now.
Benjamin Bonzi's arch nemesis.
Yeah, he's actually yeah, exactly. But other than that, not really. Draper not being able to play was disappointing because I think we lost that match. What was it? Quarterfinal. He was supposed to play against and Shelton and Draper's injuries. They bummed me out because I was hoping for a Draper versus Sinner quarters and Alcaraz versus Shelton.
Yeah.
And that was gonna. I thought, if we get those matches, they're great right now. But then both of them get hurt, and now both of them. Well, one's not playing for the rest of the year, and the other one, we don't know when Shelton's coming back. So yeah.
He won't be playing for the rest of the year. I don't think. I imagine.
No, I don't think either. I think
it'll be a race for the Australian Open, to be honest.
Yeah, for him. Yeah. So, so that's the only disappointing. I mean, for players, player-wise, nothing really was. They didn't feel like too many upsets, except for the withdrawals.
Yeah, I think Casper Ruud didn't he lose like second round to Riedel, I think it was. But I know he's not been playing well.
Rune losing. It feels like Rune.
Yeah,
like we're like whenever we talk about. I mean, I don't think there's going to be big three. It's Alcaraz and the rest, but Rune's name always gets mentioned. Like, he's going to be the third guy, and then we get to slams, and he just can't get those couple of wins to play. At least play these guys. I was maybe a little disappointed that he couldn't just get a little bit further to make it. To play another top 10 guy in a slam or something like that, or get to a fourth round.
Yeah. As soon as it becomes physical, I think he really struggles. Like, I mean, I know Struffle's playing well, but like 5 sets and they were splitting the sets. It was like one.
But then Djokovic chopped him up, didn't he? What was the score? Djokovic just go, well, that's not going to happen.
Rune is just struggling too much. He's struggling too much against players that on paper you should be beating. I think it's just, Anyways, I think he to me has been one of the most disappointing players because I feel the hunger is there to do something, but I think just the way that he's going about it with the coaching situation, the style of play, he's really struggling to find his identity and also know how to manage these matches in best of 5. And it's just, he needs to figure out pretty quickly if he wants to even be still in the conversation for someone who's going to make something happen at a slam at this point. Because really, can we honestly say that he's made any improvements or movements in the right direction in the last 3 years? Well, he won Paris when in 2022, was it? The indoor, I think it was. Made the quarterfinals that year as well for Roland Garros.
Yeah.
So now he is in 2025, and I mean,
beat Alcaraz on clay.
Yeah, he did in Barcelona.
Again, Alcaraz, you know, how injured was he?
But then also, what did he do after that, right?
Yeah.
What did he do at the French?
Yeah.
He lost. I mean, he lost to Musetti, to be fair, who had a really good clay court swing. But
yeah.
But then you also have to say, well, then I don't know. Like, if you want to win one of these slams, then you have to get through those types of players. You know, Musetti is not being talked about as winning a slam right now. Rune wants to be put in a similar conversation to Sinner and Alcaraz. So, you know, it is what it is. I mean, it's in Rome, he lost to Mute. Madrid, he lost to Cabole. I mean, he has a walkover after the first set. But yeah, hopefully he finds something. I mean, the indoor swing's coming up, and he's had some decent results there historically. So
yeah,
maybe he can do something. But yeah, I think also, as you said, I think he needs to play these guys. And that will probably give him more hunger and like an ability to understand what he needs to do.
They've come up like it's been like, one or one. Like I think it was Cincinnati. I was like, Rune Sinner semis, let's go, and then he loses to Atman, and I'm like, what? I know Atman played really well that week, and he played well against Sinner even in the semis. But I was like, we just can't get like Rune Sinner was great in Australia, and we saw Sinner sweat, and you're like, okay,
yeah.
And then we saw the Barcelona match, even though Alcaraz wasn't his fittest, it was still a win. But then when we get to the big show, and it's like, I just can't consistently beat these, like play these guys. Even if he lost to them, I wouldn't care as long as he was getting a chance to play them. Even playing Djokovic at a slam, I'd take that at Rune Djokovic at a slam. But we don't even get that because he just loses the match before the match, and you're like, third round when he's fourth round's a good match, and he loses the third round. He just doesn't get to those matches that I want to see him get to.
Yeah,
because I think that he gets up for those matches. Like when he gets to those guys, he's like, now I'm gonna show everybody what I can do. But he doesn't get to that point. He's losing on court 7 to a quali, and you're like, oh, I want him to do it because I think he could be a pain, and he could disrupt the Sincaraz dominance a bit. Because I don't think he really is. He kind of has that kind of like, I guess, Djokovic vibe when it was like Fadal, when he's kind of like, he does have that like, you guys are pretty good, but also I've beaten both of you, and I don't care if you're winning everything. I'm going to ruin it. He doesn't like have that, like he doesn't put them on a pedestal like I guess my other players maybe do, which is part of it, part of the whole thing. If I mean, look at all the guys from the 90s that put Djokovic on a pedestal and then can't beat him, right? So yeah, I just want Rune to do something.
No, that is literally those are my thoughts. Whenever I see him lose, I'm just like, come on, do something. Come on, just do something. Yeah. Just make something.
I was supposed to play Alcaraz this week, but then Alcaraz pulled out of the Davis Cup. So I was looking so forward. I'm like, oh yeah, it was going to be on clay. I'm like, yes, rematch, and then Alcaraz went to a party
is too busy showing off his bleach. Yeah, exactly. His bleached
dyed his hair and went. He's probably somewhere in New York right now.
He's probably partying right now.
Yeah,
somewhere in some club with his bleached hair, mate. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you with Rune, honestly, because I just feel it's going to happen at some point. Surely it has to click, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with him. I just, it's really tough to envisage it right now. I think you just have to see him, make a run. Okay, should we touch on the women's?
Yep.
Let's touch on the women. So, look, I mean, we were talking about players not being able to meet, for example, with Rune and meeting Alcaraz or Sinner, and actually one final on the women's side, at least from a Grand Slam point of view that we still haven't seen, is Sabalenka and Swiatek. And Anisimova, of course, made sure of that with an incredible run, beat her in the quarterfinals, got revenge for her double bagel in the Wimbledon final. I remember watching that Wimbledon thinking, oh my gosh, what am I watching? But the way that she recovered and then beat Swiatek in straight sets is just a real testament to her mental strength, because I don't think people understand how difficult that would be. I feel like if you don't play tennis maybe and you just watch it, you may not quite understand like how difficult it would be to mentally get over that, given that was her first Grand Slam final, and then not just beat Swiatek a few weeks later, but then go on to make another final and put in a pretty good performance as well in the final. But Sabalenka, of course, is the one who came out on top. I mean, how impressed with you with Sabalenka? Did you pick her as well? I was pretty happy because I got my picks right this tournament. I picked Alcaraz and Sabalenka, so I had to go back in the comments and start taunting some of my subscribers about them telling me off for picking Sabalenka. But it is what it is.
I picked Sabalenka, and I picked Sinner. I mean, for Anisimova, I mean, to go from double. But the thing is, like, I found that when I was watching that final, it was playing the worst match you could play in the most important match of your life. Like, it was just that combination of like, all right, I need to play my best tennis because I may never make this final again. And then you rock up and everything just goes wrong. So when they played again in the quarters, I thought, I didn't think that it was going to be that. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a turnaround. Like, all of a sudden she's now 1-6, 3 and 4. But I wasn't too, like, I think being in a quarterfinal as well, less, pressure, being at home, against Swiatek, less pressure, there was a lot of things in her favor, and she could only get better, right? She couldn't lose 6-love again, surely. So it was always going to be better, a better result, and less, maybe less nerves in that. But yeah, she beat Sabalenka at Wimbledon and then lose the final. So, of the US. So it's like, she was very impressive though. Like, back-to-back Slam finals, crazy good. She's number 4 in the world. Australian Open's got to look good, right? She's been good there before. She's done well there before.
Yeah. She's not far
it's always
off, right?
interesting though, because with these players, it's always interesting to see like, okay, well now people are like going to pick her, right? Whereas nobody picked her for Wimbledon, and not many people were talking about her for the US Open either.
Oh.
So now it's like, okay, well, now people are going to pick her for Australia.
Yeah.
So what's that going to do?
Yeah.
Is she going to be like, be able to deal with the expectation of being like, oh yeah, now everyone's thinking you're going to win, and she's like, well, do I have to win? Can she deal with that? Because there's a lot of players that become contenders and then they just can't get through the second round or third round, right?
Yeah.
So
it's interesting.
No,
so I was going to say, like, when you're talking about like the Slam finals expectations, and I was going to say, like, Paolini obviously made 2 consecutive Grand Slam finals last year, and then she's had a pretty decent year. I mean, she's still like hovering around the top of the rankings, but she obviously hasn't replicated that at Slams. But I feel like the difference between her and Anisimova is that Anisimova's got really big weapons. So I feel like, with Paolini, like, she has to really fight hard, like, in these matches.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of real tenacious type match play, like, constantly. Whereas with Anisimova, she has weapons to kind of get her out of trouble and win points quickly. And I think the one positive as well, like you were mentioning, is that she beat Sabalenka at Wimbledon. She's now beating Swiatek at the US Open. So she's racking up wins against the top players who are winning slams. So then she can take that and think, well, hold on, like, I'm not far off. I might need to beat 2 of them in a row, but it's possible. And then the final as well, like, she had some chances in the final. I know it's straight sets, but she had some chances.
I think she was up a break in the final. First, right?
She was a break up in the first. And I think it was just she managed the occasion a lot better, but she's still pretty young. I think she's 24. And I actually remember speaking to a woman in qualies last year, which is crazy to think about because she was playing Wimbledon qualifying. She didn't win the last round. She lost to Eva Lees, who's obviously now doing really well as well.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to her saying to me, actually, it's great to be here at Roehampton. It was the first time she was at qualies at Wimbledon, but actually, of course, I'd rather prefer to be in the main draw, and I feel like that's where I belong. And she clearly had, understandably, some confidence about her because of results in previous years as a teenager, and now she's proving why she has that quiet confidence about her as well. So, an incredible turnaround, and I hope she does pick up a slam at some point, whether it's this year, next year, whenever, because I think she's too good a player not to, and. I think she's a little bit harsh on herself. She said she didn't fight hard enough for it. I thought she fought pretty hard in the final. But I think she's maybe just a little bit disappointed knowing that she was playing against someone who she had a winning head-to-head with as well, 6-3 it was. So I think for Sabalenka, there was a lot of probably mental trauma from the Wimbledon loss, and then also the Grand Slam finals lost as well this year. How do you think Sabalenka handled it? Because I thought that was a pretty gutsy performance.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine if she hadn't won that. I mean, and I was talking about before the final. I'm like, if Sabalenka loses this final and is number 1 in the world without winning a slam in the last 12 months, people are going to question how she's number 1. Because, I mean, she's made the finals, which is huge. But when you see, when people don't know how the rankings work so much, and they're like, well, the number 1 player should have at least be holding something. Not just a runner-up trophy. So I think like that, to get that slam, just kind of like, nobody can question it that she's number 1. She's a US Open champion. Of course, she's the best player on the planet. Like at least they kind of easy because it would have been devastating. And I think there was a stat like she lost to Americans at every slam this year. And even the match against Pegula was interesting. I think that was probably Sabalenka's best level. Her final was good, but she, served for the match, got broken at the end in the second set, recovered well. But that Pegula match, Pegula was playing really well. And Sabalenka was the best one of the best matches she might have played all year. The level was huge. So, it was good to see her win. And I picked her for so many slams this year. So I picked her for Wimbledon. I picked her for the Australian Open. Then I'm like, oh, come on, please.
Yeah.
And people would just be like, stop picking her. I'm like,
that's exactly what I got. That's why I had to go back in the comments and say, look, I was right finally. So I take it back. I actually got a comment saying, look, we know that Sabalenka is your favorite player, but stop picking her. And I was like, she's not even my favorite player. I just think that she's going to win. Like, I don't know. Like, It's
I'm
not
picking the number
what
one to
do.
win. It's just
Yeah.
obvious, right? It's meant to be
Yeah, so
obvious.
like, I mean, she's the defending champion. Like she's hard. She's definitely the
Mm,
best player on hard court. So
yeah,
yeah, no, I think it's good to see. I think it could have mentally broken her potentially as well. She had lost it. That would have been crazy because she would have
yeah,
sat down at the end of the year and thought, man, I should have won. I should be sitting here with 3 slams. That's what she would be
oh,
thinking, I'm
yeah,
sure. And I'm
yeah,
sitting here with 0. So,
yeah,
which is not great, but it's great to see her get the win. And I think mentally for her, it was needed more than Anisimova. I think for Anisimova, it was she beat Swiatek massive plus back-to-back slam finals, and then knowing that she was not that far off in the final as well, put in a much better
yeah.
performance. So she'll have the experience now. And if she is in that position again, I'm sure she'll put in an even better showing and potentially win it as well. So,
I want to see
uh,
her play golf. I want to next
who?
year.
Sabalenka?
Anisimova in not
Anisimova?
maybe
Okay.
not in a final, but like maybe the semis of
Okay.
something next year. I don't know what it is. If it's French Open, if it's whatever. I think that like because she's obviously played Sabalenka, Swiatek,
Yeah.
beaten them at slams. Okay, well now I know she's beaten Goff at slams in the past, but being as like a top player, playing Goff in
Mm.
the would be interesting. If Goff can get that serve working in like whenever it is in Australia or whatever, Roland Garros, that would be fun. I think that
It's a good
feels like
clash
it
of styles.
could be interesting. Yeah, especially because I mean, look how good Goff does against Sabalenka, right?
Yeah.
And you'd say that Anisimova has a lot of Sabalenka qualities.
Yeah,
That
she does.
it could be a really interesting clash, and probably not bad for Goff as well to get a win. And we might see them play at the end of the year, WTA
Mm.
finals. But I want to see them play at a slam. I don't know
Yeah.
which one. I don't know. Hopefully the semis or the final would be awesome. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like that's the next match for me for Anisimova. I want to see.
Yeah. It's interesting. I guess the good thing about the WTA tour as well is unlike the men's, you don't have to kind of wonder or guess how it might play out in a slam because they have best of 3 tournaments at slams and also other tournaments. Whereas for the men, like Novak was saying, I might be able to beat Jannik and Carlos at best of 3, but then obviously it's best of 5 at slams.
Yeah,
It's very different. Of course, it's easier to beat Jannik and Carlos in the best of 3 because it's you have to play consistent level for 3 sets, and these guys don't tend to drop off for 3 consecutive sets like that. But yeah, on the women's side, you don't have that, and the depth is crazy on the women's. You're talking about Pagula, and we had Osaka as well. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yep.
Osaka, obviously Canadian Open final, and then now I thought the level was really good. She obviously beat Goff, who was struggling with her serve, and she's been struggling with form since Roland Garros anyway. But a really entertaining semi-final against Anisimova. I think a lot of people are thinking, "Oh, get Osaka Sabalenka final," and that's because they wanted to see Osaka back in a final, of course, not because they didn't want to see Anisimova, and obviously couldn't quite make it happen. But I thought her level was really good, and I think there was a crazy stat that said that every slam she made it past the 4th round, she got on to win it. So
Oh,
unfortunately, not to be this time, and she couldn't keep up that record. But surely she'll be in really good spirits as long as she's fit going into the Australian Open as well, thinking that I could potentially win this because the level I think has been really high the last few months.
yeah. And she just looks happier. Like I think that's like it's funny. Like I've watched almost every Osaka match this year, and even last year when she got Moratoglu on, and she was just getting injured a lot, and it was interesting to see how I guess it was probably around like French Open, Wimbledon, whenever her and Moratoglu split. Was it? I don't know if it was just before the Canada or it was after Canada. It was before Canada,
I
right?
think it was
Because
before, yeah.
yeah. And here, like, just seeing, like, in the press conference, how, like, disappointed she was that she was letting him down. But then, like, as soon as she made the change, that all disappeared. And she just went, well, I'm not letting anyone down now because I've got a different coach. And, the whole, like, Serena, Serena's coach thing kind of just disappeared. And the pressure that she put on herself just disappeared. And then she started winning everything and just looking so, I mean, it looked like she was having way more fun at the US Open as well. Through all the matches, even when she was playing some of the matches and was going down, she was still fired up. She usually doesn't shout much. She's not really, she hasn't in the past. She hasn't been very vocal in the past, but then she felt like very intense in the Anisimova match where she was throwing fists and shouting, and it was cool. It was good to see. Like she was fired up, and you're like, that doesn't. Osaka's usually the quiet one who's kind of just like going about business and. So yeah, it was so good to see in her rankings. Like she's almost back in the top 10 now, and now we're going to the Asian swing where I think she's done well in Beijing before. She'll probably do well in Wuhan as well. Like those courts will suit her, and then I don't know how far away she is from the cutoff for the WTA finals, but I mean that would be crazy if she got somehow qualified for that as well, because you put her in the mix. I mean, she's got 4 slams. Sabalenka's got 4 slams. Swiatek's got 6. I mean, she is, besides Venus, those are the 3 most successful players, active players, right, at Slam. So, yeah, it was awesome to see her do well. It was good to see, even though she lost in the Canadian final, it was good to see that she didn't sort of weigh on her, go, oh, well, I made a big final. I couldn't get it, and then just lost. But, yeah, it was awesome. And she was back where she belonged. I think that's where at the start of the year, she said something about, if she wasn't where she thought she would be, then she probably won't play much longer. But I think now she's definitely going to continue, because if she's making semifinals of slams and beating top 10 players, why would she hang it up if she's almost back in the top 10? It's exactly where she should have been. I picked her last year to make top 10. I was just a year too early. So then at the end of this year, maybe she might be able to, be 12 or 11 in the world, and then once we get to Australia, then that's when she hits the top 10 after that, and because she is a top 10 player, she deserves to be there. She is one of the top. I mean, you could grab one of the players out of the top 10. I don't want to name any names, but you could probably replace.
Go on, Cam.
With someone
one.
in the top 10. I don't know who, but
no, go on, call it out.
I don't know. I don't know who. Someone who's 9 or 10 or 11. I mean, or 8. I don't know. Zhang's in the top 10, but she hasn't played much. So I mean, you could maybe put Osaka in there for Zhang this year. Zhang's still very good though. But yeah,
feel free to.
I don't even know who's number 10 right now. Rebecca's 10, isn't she? Okay, maybe not Rebecca.
Yeah, Rebecca's 10. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Osaka could easily slot in there, and you'd be like, well, yeah, you would be like, oh, she's taken someone's spot. You're like, no,
yeah,
makes sense that she's there amongst all those players. So
good.
Yeah.
Rebecca and her fans don't hate Cam. He didn't mean it.
No, she deserves to be there too. I mean, she's had a phenomenal time. I'm just trying to think. I don't know. I mean, yeah. There's players I mean, there's a few players that haven't been playing well lately, so it's harsh to say that they don't deserve to be there right now, but because they played really well in the start of the year.
Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to throw you under the bus, Cam. Sorry.
Almost got me.
You're like, who's number 10? I was like,
I'm trying to think of who is between 5 and 10.
So between 5 and 10 is Andreeva, Keys, Pegula, Paolini, Zhang, and Rebecca.
Yeah, okay, Zhang then.
Zhang she will drop out because she's obviously injured. So
yeah, and if Osaka replaced her, you wouldn't think of anything because Whereas Andreeva, Keys, you're like, you can't swap them out because they've been so good at the high level, consistent, winning big trophies. Whereas Osaka hasn't got one yet, but this year. But yeah, anyways. Feel free to comment down below.
I'm saying Osaka's going to be number 1. Not joking. No,
I just want Osaka to be back in that top 10.
No, I agree. I think, and also she had really horrible draws for majority of the slams since coming back, and then this US Open, it was much better. Yeah, still wasn't really good, but she was obviously, as you said, she was seeded, so gave us some protection. And then as she goes up the rankings, she's only going to get better and better. So she'll give herself more and more of a chance of going deep and then trying to do some damage towards the back end. But I want to see an Osaka Sabalenka. You're saying that you want to see an Anisimova Golf. I want to see a Osaka and Sabalenka and see how that plays. That'll be quite interesting to see as well. But she's moving so much better than she was when she first came back, understandably, because she had a big layoff and gone through a big ordeal as well, of course, after having a child. But now she looks like she's close to her physical peak, and with the new coach, who's obviously Iga Swiatek's ex former coach, sorry, even so, he knows how to win matches strategically and tactically, I imagine, and she seems to be really happy, smiling a lot on court, as you said. So all things are pointing in the right direction. So fingers crossed, she does. It would be an incredible story if she does win a slam in the comeback, and I hope she does win one. That's not to say that I'm she's my favorite player, but I'm just thinking in terms of storyline, it'll be a really good storyline, and good for tennis. I think for the women's side for sure, and it'll probably inspire a lot of other players as well. Who are having children as well. Like, for example, Bencic came back recently. She's had some really good results. If she sees that, she's thinking, well, hold on, I can do that too. So, yeah, I mean, really, really good and positive on the women's side. I think, what did you think of, there are probably some disappointing, quote-unquote disappointing results for some players. I mean, obviously, Rebecca lost to Vondrousova, who then lost pretty comfortably after that. And then Raducanu. Yeah, she had to retire, but I mean, so lost to her injury.
She lost love and love. Technically, she win a point.
That was a big shot. I mean, she's really struggled with injuries, Vondrousova. So I do wonder how that would have played out. But I guess given that Sabalenka beat her at Cincinnati, you would think Sabalenka would get the win. But probably a little bit of slice of fortune for Sabalenka because she's quite awkward for Vondrousova to play against. But Rebecca looked like she was potentially going to start making a run. She lost in the semis to Cincinnati to Iga.
Yeah.
But you almost feel like the gap between her and Swiatek and Sabalenka has opened up, because in the past I felt like she was really causing trouble, for example, to Iga. And now Iga's been beating her quite comfortably in straight sets and not really having an issue against her on fast hard courts, which is probably quite alarming if you're Elena. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we've got someone like Raducanu, who has been struggling historically, but then after linking up with Francisco Roig, has been improving her serve, and obviously under Petri, that she did some good work. She's been racking up some good wins, some good performances, pushing Sabalenka. She lost obviously very comfortably to Rebecca, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on those two and like how you thought the US Open was, and also what you think might happen with them moving forward.
Yeah, Raducanu has been great. You know, she gets such a bad rap. I get it, but I don't get it. It's she just I don't know. I don't know if it's just disappointed fans that she wasn't winning slams the second she won one. But she gets such a bad rap. She had surgery on, I think, 2 ankles and a wrist, or 2 wrists and ankles, something like that, and comes back and basically does what she should have done before winning the US Open, and slowly, get up the rankings and slowly tick the boxes, and she's now doing that, and it's great. It's she's making those matchups where she's playing against those top 10 players, and she's losing it. She's pushing Sabalenka, she's getting closer and closer, and she's playing Swiatek, or she's playing Rebecca, and it's like those are the matches. If she's losing to those players, that's okay. At least she's getting to those matches. Whereas before her injuries, she was definitely post US Open, she was losing second round to people that weren't even in the top 50. Yeah? So it's like, it's good to see that she's finally starting to get some credit for her tennis, because I think she just gets such a bad rap for no reason. I mean, she doesn't seem like a bad person, so I don't know why people just constantly want to just say that she's no good and she should quit. But yeah, she was great. And then, obviously Rebecca was having a great... I was a little disappointed that Rebecca couldn't get through Vondrousova, because I wanted to see her take on Sabalenka, and it was great to see Vondi win. It was and I was disappointed to see her not play the next match. But yeah, Rebecca has been great. I think having... And again, I know people are going to have opinions on it, but having a coach there helps. I think that you can tell. And you could tell that maybe she knew something was going to happen, but that he was going to come back, because she started playing well just before the announcement that he was allowed to come back and be in the box, and she was playing really well. I don't know if it was in Washington, or I can't remember exactly when the announcement was made that his ban was up and he was allowed to come to the matches again. But he's always been there, obviously, in the background. But once he's been back, it's been a huge difference. And she looks, like she did, back in, even last Wimbledon when she was making the semis, she just looks like she's playing so well. And usually this time of year she's injured and she's not playing and she's barely making it through matches. But now she seems fresh almost. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because she didn't do well as well at Wimbledon.
I think she said she was struggling with, I think it was insomnia for a long
Oh,
period of time. So that
okay, well,
probably was why she was getting injured all the time, because she was not recovering.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then I think recently she's figured that out. So I think that's obviously like a separate point to the coach
yeah,
aspect. But I think that's obviously helped with her, like just with her health generally, because if she's not sleeping, then she's
oh,
probably
yeah,
struggling to actually recover and actually be in physically good shape for the
yeah,
matches, I guess, on tour.
yeah. But yeah, like I think they both did well. That whole section was so so. When you think about it, you go, okay, Raducanu lost to Rybakina, who lost to Vondrousova, who didn't get to play Sabalenka. You go, what a crazy section of the draw.
Yeah.
Why are all these really good players playing each other so early?
Yeah.
It's just like it was just crazy that section. And then Sabalenka got through and won. And, you go, okay, well, she didn't have to play all of them, but that section was just, in hindsight, was just so weird.
Yeah, that I think the women's tour is just so stacked at the moment. It's just
Yeah,
it is crazy to watch, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, a lot of really good matches and players that you just feel that so many different players that can beat others on tour.
yeah,
Whereas on the ATP side, like we were talking about, there's a clear structure at the moment and like kind of hierarchy on the ATP side. On the
oh yeah,
women's side, don't really have that as much. And Ego obviously didn't manage to back up the women win with the US Open win. I don't think she'll be too disappointed. I think Anisimova played some really, really good tennis.
yeah.
Any words on her?
Yeah, like it's funny because like everything that I basically just repeated myself when I was about to watch that quarterfinal. What I said at the Wimbledon final, I'm like, Anisimova can play like this. She can do this. She can do that. She feels like struggles against these kind of players, and then the final was like nothing I said was even remotely close. But then again, she plays like Sabalenka. She plays like Ostapenko. All these players that Swiatek struggles against on these sort of surfaces. And then it does, then it does click. So I don't think, and she doesn't seem like too disappointed by losing to. I mean, yeah, there was that like run-in she had in the press conference, which was just weird. But she didn't seem too disappointed by losing, because I think she just realized, oh yeah, this is what she could have done. Like she could have done that at Wimbledon, and then I would have been in trouble. But I mean, maybe she felt like, oh, I got it, because I've only played twice, right? So maybe she probably thought, oh yeah, that's how good you are. I'm glad I didn't have to play you at Wimbledon. I'm glad it's in the quarterfinal instead.
Yeah.
And I'll take the Grand Slam, and you can have this one, right? So yeah, but I think Anisimova, Swiatek, I don't think the next match they play she'll be taking lightly at all. And I know that she did in the quarters, but I think the next time they play, at least Swiatek's got something to think about and go, okay, well, yeah, that's the player we thought we'd get at Wimbledon. So we did see her. Now we've got to figure out, okay, how do we beat her now? Because it's Anisimova could be a problem for Swiatek very much in the future. Like, Sabalenka, like I said, Sabalenka, even Keys, all these players that are like got these powerful games, and Anisimova's on that list. It's going to be Swiatek better be planning how to beat her as well, because she's going to have to play her now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I think after the Wimbledon win, she said, the rest of the year is essentially like a free hit for her.
Yeah.
She doesn't
She won
feel like
60.
any pressure, because but at the end of the year, if she wins nothing, she'll look back and say, I had an incredible year because I won Wimbledon, and I never thought I'd win Wimbledon in my life. So, I think that's why she's been playing quite freely as well. It's been good to see. And yeah, that's probably why she wasn't super disappointed, because I think she knew, look, on the fast hard courts against someone like Anisimova, if she's redlining and she's in hot form, it's going to be really difficult. And it was. So, I think that's, you can't win every single tournament. And I'm sure she'll try and finish up strong this year, but it's been a really good year for her anyway. And she's made some really impressive gains anyway in certain other areas of her game. The serve is looking a lot bigger. The forehand as well looks less awkward against big hitters. Obviously, still some work to be done there as well. So yeah, I think all positives. If you're an Iga Swiatek fan, you shouldn't really feel too bad about her season. I think she had a really good one.
I mean, yeah, it depends who you ask, because if after the French Open, I don't know how many people were telling her to stop playing and ditch the coach, and now
2
weeks later, 3 weeks later, she wins Wimbledon. It's like, actually, no, everything's fine. You're doing well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny how things can quickly turn around.
Oh
Tennis.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
tennis is
Yeah.
short memories. A lot of short. I mean, golf won the French, and then all of a sudden, she wasn't
Yeah.
doing as well, and then now she's playing terrible, and you're like, yeah, I guess, like, but she did win the French, so
Yeah.
she should be happy with that.
Yeah, I agree. Someone who actually caused a few upsets actually as well, who's on the American side, is Taylor Townsend. We talked about Pegula,
Mm.
but she beat Ostapenko, Andreeva, and then against Krejcikova,
Oh,
she had
man.
multiple match points. I mean, that was a heartbreaker. I was actually really look, nothing against Krejcikova, but she's won 2 slams before, and I just thought for Taylor Townsend, she's 29 years old. She's got a son who's probably a little bit older than my son, and I was just thinking, it's like it's incredible home run for her.
Mm-hmm.
Like to make it, she's obviously had incredible success in doubles, but in
Yeah.
singles, she just hasn't quite worked for her. She's now like worked really hard on her movement and physicality, and she's like, in her own words, like she feels like she's physically like in really good shape. She's extremely talented, like really great hands at the net, big serve, hitting from the back of the court, just like a very intelligent player, lefty as well. So I think she was really disappointed, of course, after losing to Krejcikova because she had match points, and then you knew as soon as she lost that tiebreaker that surely it was going to be a real uphill battle to win the third set because mentally the toll it took on her after losing that. But I wondered if you had any thoughts on her, whether you watched any of her matches. What do you think of her level?
Yeah, I watched the Krejcikova match. Yeah, and I watched parts of what happened with Ostapenko, but yeah, yeah, she was. It was disappointing. It was disappointing because it would have been good to see her play. I think she was playing Pegula in the 4th round. It would have been a night match. It would have been crazy crowds, all that stuff. But yeah, and I think the way that she handled her first round and then all the stuff that came with that, and then and then losing to Krejcikova was just like, it felt like it was like, oh no, that's not how it was supposed to finish. It was supposed to finish you playing against Pegula, and then you play this crazy match, and maybe you go down, but it wasn't supposed to stop there. It felt like the story ended too quickly. So yeah, but I mean, she played. She's number one in doubles, I think currently, or was number 1 in doubles.
Yeah,
Before
she
the
is.
tournament.
Yeah.
Got to the final there. So yeah, I mean, she's so awkward to play. She's being a lefty. She's beaten Halep, I think, at the US Open before as well. So like back in the late 2010s. So yeah, she obviously loves playing at home. But I mean, she's only 29. I mean, it's not like she's going to retire and some players retire at 30, but it doesn't seem like if she's she's already had a son, she's probably going to try and play as long as she can. I mean, I think Azarenka had a similar path, right? She had a kid sort of in her mid to late 20s, and then is still playing, right? So yeah, she's got the game. She's obviously awkward for players to play. So yeah, so it was good to see. It was one of the definitely one. I mean, it was one of the. I guess the drama of it all at the start was a bit of a low light for unless you're into the drama, but then it kind of felt like, oh, this is okay. Now it's going to be like this historic run, and then it turned out she lost the match of the tournament, or one of the matches of the tournament, or one of the most memorable matches of the tournament. So yeah, it was a strange to see how she went, but I think she can be a threat. Maybe not a threat to like the Swiatek Sabalenkas, but definitely nobody would want to play her. So.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely an awkward player to come up against for sure. In terms of the other players on tour, and I guess some of the upsets and players that surprised you, was there anyone that stood out?
I mean, Keys losing first round was wild to me.
Yeah,
how that Australian Open champion and then couldn't get through the first round, which was disappointing. Andreeva, she hasn't done much. No. Like she made the quarters of the French and lost. She was the only player in the semis that, well, in the quarters, I guess, that was like the upset. when she lost to the French woman.
Buson, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I was a little disappointed with her because it kind of felt like, especially in her draw, with Pegula there, and Pegula hadn't been playing super well. I picked Pegula to lose first week, and she obviously didn't. And I picked Musetti to lose first week, and he didn't either.
Yeah,
So
I picked him to lose the Pericard first round, actually.
yeah. I mean, but I was tossing up between her, Andreeva, and Pegula. I'm like, Pegula's got to defend the final. She's got more pressure. Maybe she hasn't been playing great.
She wasn't playing well, yeah.
Yeah, and Andreeva just didn't really have anything to lose. But then it worked out that it didn't go that way. So yeah, Andreeva was a little disappointing. Maybe she had such a great March and February, March. She was so good, and beating everybody and making the winning 1000s and something. Oh, here we go. She hasn't really done anything since then. So a little disappointed in how she went. But yeah, Keys. It was weird because Keys lost like on day 2, and then so much stuff was happening at the same time. It just kind of went under the radar. It's like all the Medvedev stuff and all this other stuff going on, and you just kind of just forgot that she lost on day 2 or day 1 even. And she would have been, I'm sure, a few people's picks to win the whole thing because of the Australian Open. So
yeah,
it's a little that was weird. I don't even know if it's disappointing because it just kind of happened, and everyone just moved on so quickly because it was so, it was, that happened. Oh, wow. Okay. Next.
Yeah. But she hasn't really hit the same heights that she did. Obviously, she won the Australian Open, and then she hasn't managed to sustain that level, I think, anywhere near that right since. And probably because you have the aftermath where it's difficult to just suddenly pick yourself up and go again after such a big victory. But I think she's just, you do wonder whether maybe it was just a fortnight where she really set fire, and maybe that will be it. And she maybe might not have a similar fortnight, but she's got the game. It's just, can she find that type of level again? I guess we'll see for Keys. But she's got, as you said, she's got a lot of weapons. But the question is, can she piece it together? And I think, like Anisimova, I guess, relatively similar type of player as well. It's a question of, can you piece it together? And she's managed to do so. Keys did it at the start of the year. Can they sustain it? Can they do it year on year? I guess we'll see. Anisimova, it seems like she can, because she's done back-to-back finals. And that's kind of, obviously, then you see, okay, there's a bit of more volume there. But we'll see, because Keys is a very exciting player to watch. And hopefully we see some more of her going deep against some of the top players, because she's definitely an issue for those players if she does go deep.
Well, the WTA finals are going to be wild if Anisimova and Keys and Andreeva all qualify, and Rebecca. I mean, like, I looked at the WTA finals race, and it's just like, it's great. Like, it looks crazy what this lineup could be. So hopefully Keys, I mean, she kind of can qualify because she has a Grand Slam under her belt, so you kind of have that rule. But yeah, maybe that's where she shows everyone why she won the Australian Open, because she gets to play all those players again. And but it was I don't know. She's just kind of I don't know if did she beat Swiatek or get a set? She got a bagel against Swiatek on clay as well, which I remember happening in wherever that was, Madrid or Rome. I think it was Madrid. And that was another, like, oh wow, okay. But yeah, I mean, Wimbledon, she can't remember doing much there. I don't remember what she did at Wimbledon.
Is it Andreeva?
No, Keys.
Keys, yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it's just it just kind of she kind of just lost, and it didn't really.
Yeah, she lost to Siegmund, third round Wimbledon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, but other than that, it wasn't really. I mean, I think the women's tournament was. I think the women's side of things, as it has felt like for the most part of the year, has been so consistently good.
Yeah.
Top players playing each other. We didn't get. I mean, Wimbledon was the only tournament that I think out of the 4 that we had a lot of upsets in the first couple of days. Yeah. But this one, we had all those top 10 clashes. We had a lot of good. We had a good a bunch of matches to end the tournament. So like overall, I think it was. I mean, if you're not getting too many upsets in the first couple of days, then they're going to collide, and we're going to get those great matches that we all want. So,
yeah. For sure. Yeah, 100%. I feel like whenever the draw comes out for the women's, there's just so many ridiculous like first round matchups compared to the men's, and then just working your way through it. Just there's so many 50-50s or ones that can be really dangerous. So I feel like they're really fun to, even from my aspect, to do previews for, because you really have to think about it. Whereas for the men's, sometimes you have Alcaraz against like an unseeded player, and then the unseeded players. You have unseeded players on the women's side who are Grand Slam champions. It's just absolutely crazy. So you will get those types of players, and it's just they're dangerous. But anyways, Cam, thanks so much for being on. Appreciate it as always.
Right.
And we'll catch up soon as well, guys. If you haven't done so already, which I'm sure you have already, because Cam is arguably one of the biggest tennis YouTubers out there, Mr. Trendsetter, do hit the like button on this video. Do subscribe as well if you don't mind, and do obviously check out Tennis Talk with Cam Williams if you haven't done so already. Cam's live streaming pretty much every single day. Well, I'd say every single day, at least multiple times a day. So you can catch him there in the comments if you want.
Feels like every day.
The live chat.
Yeah.
Exactly. Cam, the live streams are his child as well. I'm sure that's really his children.
Well, the people in the chat are.
Yeah, exactly. Come on,
We'll be live tomorrow,
so
we'll be back again. And again and again.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
No worries.